The knock on the door came early in the morning. It was calm, it was polite, and it ended a manhunt that had lasted for decades. When the door opened, the man standing inside looked ordinary. He wore simple clothes. His hair was gray. His face was calm. Neighbors knew him as quiet, friendly, and helpful. Some waved at him every day. Some trusted him with their kids. Some shared meals with him. What they did not know was this. The man standing in that doorway had once been one of the FBI's most wanted. He had been hunted across the country. His face had been on posters, news reports, and television screens. And yet, for decades, he had lived in plain sight. As agents stepped inside, one of them said his real name out loud. The man did not run. He did not deny it. He simply closed his eyes. That was a moment the nation would later talk about and ask the same question again and again. How did no one notice? But to understand how he disappeared for so long, we must go back to the beginning. Long before the knock, long before the quiet life, and long before he became a ghost hiding in plain sight. His name was Daniel Harper. Years earlier, Daniel was not quiet or invisible. He was bold. He moved fast. He made dangerous choices. Law enforcement first noticed him after a crime that shocked the country. It was violent, planned, and left behind evidence that pointed to one man, Daniel Harper. The FBI opened a file. Then another. Then many more. Witnesses described him clearly. His photo was everywhere. News anchors said his name. Tips poured in. People thought he would be caught within weeks. But Daniel understood something most criminals did not. He understood people. Instead of running wildly, he slowed down. Instead of hiding in dark places, he moved toward normal life. He changed his hair. He changed his name. He changed his habits. Most important of all, he stopped acting like someone who was hiding. Daniel became someone forgettable. He picked small towns, places where everyone knew each other, but never asked too many questions. He worked regular jobs. He paid bills on time. He waved at neighbors. He never caused trouble. While the FBI chased leads across states, Daniel stood in grocery store lines. While agents followed tips that went nowhere, Daniel attended local events. He listened more than he spoke. Years passed. The FBI updated the most wanted list. New faces appeared. Daniel's case grew cold. Tips slowed down. Files gathered dust. But Daniel never relaxed. He never used old contacts. He never talked about his past. He never stayed too long in one place. When something felt wrong, he left. Inside, he lived with fear every day. Every siren made his heart race. Every knock made him pause. But outwardly, he was calm. That calmness became his shield. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel grew older. Time changed his face. Wrinkles replaced sharp features. Gray hair replaced dark. The face on the old wanted posters no longer matched the man walking down the street. That helped him more than anything else. By the time technology improved, DNA databases, facial recognition, digital records, Daniel had already buried himself under years of normal life. Or so he thought. What Daniel did not know was that one small mistake, one moment of carelessness, was quietly building toward the end. It was not a crime. It was not a fight. It was paperwork. A simple record created a link that should not have existed. A name, a date, a pattern. Someone noticed. At first, it seemed impossible. The man was too normal, too boring, too kind. But the questions did not stop. Federal agents reopened the old file. Slowly, carefully, they compared the past to the present. And when they were sure, when every detail matched, they planned the knock. Daniel Harper had lived free for decades. But now, the truth was closing in. And as the agent stood in his home that morning, one question remained unanswered. How would a man who hid in plain sight for so long finally face the world that had been hunting him? That answer would come next. The case file was old. So old that some of the pages were yellow, and the ink had started to fade. For years, Daniel Harper's name sat quietly inside a cabinet, marked inactive. New agents walked past it without stopping. New crimes took attention away. New faces filled the FBI's most wanted list. But cases like this never truly die. They wait. The break did not come from a dramatic chase or a bold tip. It came from a routine review. A young analyst, new to the job, was assigned to look through unresolved cases from decades earlier. Her task was simple: update records, check what new technology might be able to do, and flag anything unusual. When she reached Daniel Harper's file, something felt off. The crimes were serious. The planning was careful. The suspect had vanished without a trace. That alone was strange. Most people who run make mistakes. Daniel had not, at least not obvious ones. The analyst started comparing timelines. She noticed gaps, long, quiet periods where Daniel seemed to disappear completely. Then she noticed something else. Similar patterns appeared in small towns across different states. New identities, new jobs, always clean records, always quiet lives. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they formed a shadow. She passed her notes to a senior agent. At first, he brushed it off. Too many coincidences. Too much time had passed. But something about the consistency bothered him. He asked for a deeper look. That was when technology entered the story. Databases that did not exist years ago now connected information across states. Employment records, rental agreements, utility bills. The system started to find links, small ones, almost invisible, different names, similar birth dates, matching handwriting styles, repeated job choices. Still, none of it was enough. Then came the moment that changed everything. A DNA sample appeared in a national database, not from a crime scene, but from a family tree service. A distant relative had taken a test, hoping to learn about their ancestry. They had no idea they were opening a door that had been closed for decades. The system flagged a partial match. Not enough to accuse, enough to investigate. Agents returned to the old file. They overlaid the DNA data with the paper trail. Slowly, the shape became clear. The man living quietly under a different name matched Daniel Harper in ways that could no longer be ignored. But there was a problem. If they were wrong, they would destroy the life of an innocent man. So they watched. Agents did not rush in. They observed from a distance. They studied his habits, his routines, his interactions. They watched him buy groceries. They watched him talk with neighbors. They watched him live the life he had built. Everything looked normal. That made it harder. The agent in charge felt a strange conflict. Part of him respected the discipline it took to stay hidden for so long. Another part remembered the victims who never got justice. Finally, the evidence crossed a line. Fingerprints from an old document matched. Handwriting from decades ago matched. DNA was confirmed. Daniel Harper was no longer a ghost. The arrest plan was careful and quiet. No sirens. No headlines. They did not want him to run. They did not want neighbors hurt. They wanted the truth. On the morning of the arrest, agents parked down the street. They walked calmly to the door. No guns raised. No shouting. Just a knock. When Daniel opened the door, he saw the badges immediately. His face did not change. Years of control held strong. Inside, though, something broke. He had known this day could come. As they read his rights, Daniel looked around the house. The photos, the furniture, the life he had built piece by piece. None of it was real anymore. Neighbors watched from their windows, confused. This was not how monsters looked in their minds. As Daniel was led away, one neighbor whispered, "He was always so kind." That sentence would echo across the country later, because the question was no longer just who Daniel Harper was. The question was how many others were still hiding the same way. And as Daniel sat alone in a holding cell that night, the calm finally left him. For the first time in decades, there was no next move. The hunt was over, but the story was not. Because what Daniel would say next, and what he would refuse to say, would shake investigators and reopen wounds that had never healed. And that would lead to the final chapter,